population that we're pulling from. So it's not like you have to understand, and you please read the book. It is about Islam, because we go through in that book what the percentages are of what you would call radical Muslims. But they're not radical over in the Middle East. They believe in Sharia law. That's how we would declare somebody radical, is that they believe in Sharia law. They believe that, yes, if you leave Islam, you have a right to an honor killing. Okay? That's radical to us. But over in the Middle East, that's not radical. In some of these places, it's 95% believe that. So that's normal to them. That's what leads people to hand out candy when there's a bombing, dance in the streets. We've seen it over and over again. Are they radical or are they normal? Over there, they're normal. Let me say this. Can you imagine if we had an NFL game and right after the crane fell in Mecca and killed all those Muslims in Mecca? Can you imagine what would have happened if they would have asked for a moment of silence and everybody in the stadium started to boo and then chant, Jesus saves, Jesus saves, Jesus saves? Can you imagine what the world reaction would have been? Can you imagine what the president's reaction would have been? Can you imagine what your reaction would have been? You would have said, oh my gosh, I am living in a horrible society. We're booing a moment of silence for the dead? We have a reason to be angry with those guys, but we are a nation of life. We believe in the sanctity of life. All life, even the life that disagrees with us, despises us, or wants us dead. And for us to start shouting, Jesus saves, would be awful. This is what happened in a stadium in Turkey yesterday when they asked for a moment of silence. That's booing, by the way. Now they're shouting, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar.
Wow. And it's not like a person.
That's the whole stadium.
That's the crowd. I mean thousands and thousands.
That's thousands of people. That's not just a little group of people. They first boo, and then they all start shouting Allah Akbar. They are celebrating the death of their ally in France.
I mean, we had a major news story happen when one person in the entire stadium when the Green Bay Packers game yelled, Muslims suck, during the moment of silence. One person. The quarterback, Aaron Rodgers of the Packers, came out, called him out in a press conference, and it was a major story for 2 days. One person in a stadium of, 70,000? And that was the reaction. This is, I mean, if it's not everyone thousands in the stadium, it's certainly the majority of the people in the stadium.
Can you play it again, Pat? It's really remarkable. Really, truly remarkable. This is Nazi stuff. This is truly Nazi stuff. So now this is the same population that are refugees, are, quote, Muslim refugees that we aren't supposed to worry about at all, are coming from. This is the culture they're coming from. How do you expect them to mold in and fold into ours? They don't have the same set of values. They're welcome all across the Middle East. All across the Middle East, they're welcome.
Where they share culture, language, religion,
everything.
Everything.
Yeah. There's plenty of countries they can go to.
Too.
Yeah.
It's a shorter walk.
What's
to Saudi
amazing,
Arabia,
too, is to look at the map from the UN of the migrants. I mean, none of them are going to the Middle Eastern countries. None of them are going to the Islamic countries.
Isn't that fascinating?
Why?
None of them.
Wouldn't that be
not fascinating?
Wouldn't that be your choice?
Yes.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes. Someone where there's legitimate, like, widespread Islamic values that you could go in and meld in. You might not agree with everybody. It might be a little bit different, but you're not trying to rework your entire culture to a Western culture.
Could we think out loud here for a second? Just think out loud here for a second. Anybody remember when the president said that he wanted to diversify our neighborhoods? And everybody said, well, he's trying to develop some sort of utopia. You can't manufacture our neighborhoods. What are you doing? And he said, we need to have our neighborhoods much more diverse. We need America to be a much more diverse nation. Wouldn't this be a perfect way to make us much more diverse?
It would help.
The State Department is picking the neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. They're the ones. It's the federal government saying, you're going here, here, and here. He's just making us more diverse. That's all he's doing. And it fits into the way he thinks. If America was more diverse, if we had more Muslims here, then America wouldn't be so hateful of Muslims. That's the way he thinks.
And apparently he doesn't mind doing it at the peril of...
He doesn't think it's the peril. He doesn't think it's to the peril.
I mean, you've got to be a fool not to think there's a huge risk.
Or you think you're God.
Yeah, and
he's pretty darn close to that.
Pretty darn close.
He just thinks that he can raise the level or lower the level of the seas.
Mm-hmm.
He really believes. I mean, the press has already said this about him. He's some sort of God above the American people. He believes. He doesn't believe he's God, but he believes he's damn close to it.
I mean, in a way, Obama's standing above the country, above the world. He's sort of God. He's
sort of. I mean, sort of God.
Sort of above the country.
If you're around a bunch of sycophants who say that to you all the time, and nobody ever says anything bad around you, they take and they alter all of the reports to your liking on how your policies are working. That's what's happening. All of the CIA people, all of our intel people are saying that we get our reports back and say, change them. The president doesn't want to see that. And so they have to change the reports to make it look like we're doing well. If you have that kind of power to where everybody's telling you, yes, sir, yeah, well, that's, we can just change that report because that'll make it, yes, because it is working. If you look at it that way, Mr. President, you're right, it is working. You think you're a god.
That's why he hates Fox News so much, because they don't treat him like that. And if you're not treated like that when everybody around you is always treating you like that, you'd be upset too.
Yeah, I mean,
a little pissed off.
I'll give you this. This is from Ezra Klein, who was Washington Post, and now he's at, I think, Vox. He's one of the big left-wing respected analysts out there. This is a tweet from him, September 10th, 2013. I can't believe the White House's strategy on Syria is working out this well. I doubt they can either. This well? This is what you think is good? This was the plan? This is what you think is a quality outcome. This is this is September 10th, 2013. So just a couple of years ago. But I mean, when you think about it from what you just described, this collection of people all around you all the time telling you everything you do is so awesome. Well, then maybe you do get to this world where you think you're essentially above the country. You're above the world. You're sort of a god. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe that does feed into that. I don't know.
He just thinks that we are lowly little people that don't understand, and we're bigoted. We cling to our God and our guns.
When you're smarter than everyone else,
yes,
you inadvertently think that way all the time, right?
Yes.
And that's the way it is.
Yes. They don't know. They don't know what's good for them. That's what he says about Jerusalem all the time. Jerusalem doesn't understand. Israel doesn't understand what's good for them. They're just too stupid to understand that. And we're just too stupid to understand what's good for us. Having all of these Muslim immigrants that are coming in here, who we don't really know who they are, it'll be good for us. Because, by the way, terrorism is down, We haven't had a single terrorist strike under Obama's watchful eye. No, we haven't.
It depends on the definition. We have some workplace violence that some people would define as terrorism.
No, exactly right. No. We've had workplace violence, but that's because of the gun. We haven't had any terrorists. There are no Muslim terrorists here. These guys were pushed over the brink. That's all that happened. It was workplace violence. These guys were in an American system that was pushing their ideology, and these Muslims couldn't take it anymore. It's workplace violence. It's not Muslim extremists. So what is he afraid of bringing people in for? They're not going to do anything because they're not Muslim extremists. Now, would we have some workplace violence? Sure. But we have kids, white kids, Christian kids shooting people anyway. So what's the difference? There's no difference.
It's amazing. And the gun thing is a really interesting point, too, because his idea of we don't react. How many times have we criticized him for basically saying, look, we keep having these shootings and we're not doing anything? Wait a minute, that's the worst time to make a decision right after in an emotional place of mourning. That's not when you go after. We said that a million times.
And
now he's arguing
to say that
the entirely opposite viewpoint that it's stupid to make decisions when you're in one of these crises.
And it's all based on guns.
And based on guns. But so this is what I love. What you say? You said 10% of Muslims are friendly to terrorism. We've seen polls that are shown much higher than that. But even if you want to say it's half of that, maybe 5%. Sure. Listen to this stat. Every time there's a shooting, what do they say? We got to get rid of these assault rifles. For every 354,839 rifles in this country, one is used in a murder every year. 1 out of 354,000. It's 99.997% of rifles are not used in murders, and he wants to ban them. But here we are, a group of 3 or 5 or 10% that are friendly with terrorism that are Muslims.
And he wants to bring them in.
He wants to bring them in because look, most of them are, a lot of them are 3-year-old orphans. It's really ridiculous.